So, call to order the capital outlay committee meeting. Today is Monday, April 10th, time is 3:35. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of the matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Yeah. We'll ask for a roll call.
I'm McMullen, I'm Minister.
Robert Rendon,
Under Herbeck, member at large. Liza Kutcher, school committee. Serena Amaral, accountant.
Paul Reynolds, treasurer collector.
Barry in the highway department. As a guest, let's please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we left off our last meeting actually with very not presented his latest set of requests. There's also obviously holdovers from last year, and there are a number of holdovers from other departments as well that we get to discuss as well. So we will take that all into account here. But I think the biggest thing we were trying to understand when we last left off was this the funding here for Main Street and how Chapter 90 money might impact it. Ms. Ferry and I had a discussion on Friday to the extent of us trying to understand this and also trying to understand kind of the prioritization from the highway department with regards to their requests. Main Street is at the top of the list. It is a multi-year project. I don't know. Anybody's been down the road recently. I happened to go by it and I can see why we're spending as much as we have been there. So with that being said, what we are trying to, the overall cost of the project is roughly $2.11 million.
And just as a clarification, that only has the repaving going from Waynes to Elm. As part of like the first iteration, I'd have to like a lot of updated thought. We really need to be thinking about doing the whole thing. Like so from Waynes all the way down to County. So that will have an added, so like an added cost, but we'll be able to do the same, the whole thing at roughly the same time.
Okay. And then, so in my discussions with Ms. Ferry, one of the things that came to light is that the sidewalk estimate here, Ms. Ferry feels is rather high. It will be put out the bid. It's quite possible that we could actually use this number, I think, maybe now, given in light of what Mr. Mullen just stated, is that this is a total number to do from Williams all the way to County as opposed to just doing Williams down. Don't know if that's going to be in the ballpark or not, but okay. So still, let's consider that this is a $2.11 million project overall. Okay, we have a need to fund some of this year, primarily getting the materials purchase going. Okay, Mr. Ferry has in what they've allocated from Chapter 90 money is $140,000. Yeah. So
that's what's available. It's not designated yet.
it's not designated yet.
That's what's available.
That's what's available. Okay. So if we want any sort of contingency from now to the end of the remainder of the fiscal year, which is 3 more months. That number is gonna be less. I don't know what was fair. Do you have a number that you have in mind in terms of placing an order for materials? Is it 125,000? Is it 100,000?
Well, because of the problem with lead time on materials, plus procuring, by the time we procure it, it's gonna be. By the time we finish procuring, it's gonna be almost June.
Yeah, and I'm not talking necessarily about procuring, but just the actual placement of the order so that the spend gets incurred in this fiscal year and is allocated against this. So chapter 90 money.
So just in terms of the drainage improvements and what we would actually buy to do the drainage improvements, the only way we have an ability to basically invest $250,000 plus you. An opera, as if we basically, prioritize and those drainage improvements using ARPA funding. That is the drainage improvements are the only area in the Main Street project that is ARPA eligible. So really, we should be able to pick the drainage improvement portion of the project off with ARPA. And so we really, the only upfront funding we need won't be actually from town meeting, it'll be from ARPA. And so we, as a result, we will have to have all the procurement done before we can get the reimbursement from the county through ARPA. But it would actually save us at this point from having to have an annual town meeting warrant article for the drainage, because we do have a dedicated funding source through ARPA. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. However, don't we still have to put it out onto the warrant with the because we're gonna have to front that money, correct? So anytime we have to front the money. And then we're getting reimbursed for it, don't we have to put that onto the warrant?
Enough for ARPA, we don't. We basically won't receive the ARPA funding until we've actually successfully procured the project.
So the paperwork has to go in, the procurement has to go in,
Mhm.
then we ask ARPA for that funding. That's what they need to see in order to say, yes, you will qualify for that
Yes.
funding.
Yes. So there is, and we can reach out and we will reach out to Mr. Tony to explain and describe. The project and what we're actually funding. So that we're proposing to fund with the project before we put in that whole effort. And also before we forego the opportunity, to really advance a warrant article as well. But yes.
Once it's procured, it doesn't take long for them to. They give us the money and they reimburse it.
When I was looking back for when you guys bought the repeaters, we got the money right before we started paying out.
It's fairly quick.
Yeah, that's great.
Right, yeah, question.
Just thinking fiscal years, how that.
Yeah, it's gonna merge real quick. By the time, like I said, by the time you procure, it's gonna be almost June. We finish it.
So, but the ARPA wouldn't have but to follow the fiscal year budget process.
And so what's your thoughts happening at that one point?
Well, then I think that what that does is it frees us up maybe to push one of these other projects up to FY23.
Right.
And again, that's just
Actually hold off and designate. What, like saying,
well, from what I can see, there's nothing to designate this year for the Main Street upgrade. Because we're gonna use all of the ARPA to do the drainage. Not all of the ARPA, we're gonna use 250,000 to fund the entire drainage aspect of the project. Right. The other two aspects, the asphalt and the road paving, won't actually be incurred until FY 24. Right? So that's still whatever you have left in your chapter 90 money is whatever projects you still have slated for this year that were approved from last year. And then whatever's left from that, I mean, if 140 is your balance right now, and you've got 40,000 outstanding projects and you've got 100,000 that you can incur this year. Again, this is chapter 90 money that's used at my understanding is it's used as at the discretion of the highway department. You can start pulling some of these William Street drainage at $11,000, Bridge Street alternative analysis, your Maple Swamp guardrail. I mean, I think those three right there brings you right up almost to 100,000.
But yeah, so in doing that, we would just need to be mindful on the flip side that would basically increase our obligation to pay for the sidewalks and the road paving. And having that funding on a more dedicated basis, either coming from free cash or capital stabilization at that point.
It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because these other smaller projects are gonna have to come from those same funding sources. I'd rather see these projects get started now. I mean, we've already held off, like, for example, the Maple Swamp guardrail was a project that was proposed last year, as was the, I believe the Bridge Street alternative analysis was also proposed last year. So these are things, and not to mention the equipment that we withheld last night. I don't want to say withheld, that was, the equipment asked last year was really heavy. When we pushed off 3 or 4, maybe even 5 pieces of equipment. Well, it still got you 2 pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
2 trucks last year. Yeah. So I mean, obviously that's a real heavy ask. That was probably, I think, close to $2 million just in equipment replacement alone. We used roughly a quarter of it, I believe, to and pushed everything off till at least this year, and we can't afford even that. And of course, there's more equipment aging out. So, in my opinion, it's
it's what it is basically.
yeah.
And the Bridge Street, that last year's proposal was 250,000. And I'm suggesting that a different direction, it's only 27,500.
Yes. The big difference. But I think that going with that approach and frees up the highway department to begin some of this work now as opposed to waiting till July.
Makes sense to me.
So they're here now and getting ready before the warrants close.
So, well, let's keep marching down Main Street, so to speak.
Just don't prep.
Right. So if we take the 250,000 out here, because it's gonna be used for ARPA through using ARPA funding, and that's gonna leave us with so we were at essentially 2.11.
It's not like here. That's not a wait and see how it's gonna, that money is dedicated for that. It applies to that.
Yeah, I do think we should have a placeholder warrant article just so we have some type of fallback plan. That if anything, I mean, we can begin working on once we have the materials list. Like we can begin working to advance the ARPA request through the county. To make sure that the county doesn't have a problem with the request, but just basic, but also because once one article is like a due on Wednesday, like I just think having a place for the article that basically holds a spot for advantage until. Like we absolutely know for sure that the county doesn't have any issues with that request.
With that question off, yeah,
No.
big chunk. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to.
That's a good-
Yeah, no,
Good
that's
ask.
like,
That's a good ask. Okay, so if we get the ARPA funds, then we're looking at funding 1.86 million. Okay.
Yep.
And. Is the idea that this will all this work will be complete by the end of fiscal year 25?
Tom?
Funded, yes.
That's a pretty condensed schedule.
Right. That's why I'm asking, because are we spreading this cost out over 2 years, or are we spreading it out over 3 years? Because that makes a big difference as well, in what we go ask for it at town meeting.
The drainage needs to happen this year. Sounds like it's gonna happen regardless.
Yeah,
If it's freezing thaw. If it's funded. The sidewalk campaign could happen if it's funded.
so. If 200,000 is allocated out of chapter 90 money. In the subsequent 2 years, FY 24, FY 25, then you're looking at. Yeah, and I'm just using good round numbers, so makes math easy for me. Now we're looking at funding 1.46 million. Okay.
One of my initial thoughts, which is why in the spreadsheet. I had allocated $400,000 by commitment, including APRA in FY 23. So on top of APRA, if we had hypothetically a warrant article. For an additional $150,000 to put towards the future work. Like it does take the bite out of what we would need to obligate. Like in the following 2 years, so at least we wouldn't. Like cross the $500,000 mark in those later. In those later 2 years with that ask, but it was just an idea.
Yeah, well, where's that 140,000 coming from? Free cash?
Yeah, like how available free cash that we have on hand right now.
Next year you can't count on
Yeah, like,
What's our free cash position right now?
514.
And do we have anything for special right now?
There's a couple of small things.
we have the 7 year of $5.
Yeah.
At 120. And then we have about $54,000 for the street sweeper. And
For the leaves.
yeah.
Maybe 3,000 prior year bills.
Yeah, ish.
Yeah, ish.
3,000, Lisa?
I think so.
That's 337,000 is left. Get the math right. And then if we take 140 out of that. That leaves you with 197.
So yeah, that was just, I mean, like free cash, as we know, like it's never given, so that's why I was also thinking, like, if we know we have. To include it in an existing allotment now, if we go out against. So something that we know we already have, rather than. Oh, we're really just banking on the future.
Yeah. And then we'll have FY 23 free cash get certified in roughly October. So we can't really plan on that, but we know that there'll be some money there, but 200,000. I mean, that's essentially. Anything else that we would get, I mean, what? Question becomes how we're gonna fund anything that's a special warrant article at this point.
We would, in my opinion, follow what we did last year, like, and really. But yeah, like, unless we have an immediate needs. Like, or a project that, is able to be funded from non-free cash. For funding, we wait to do capital till we have the next round of free cash allotment.
Is that typically how this town's been doing it the past few years? Because I'm used to it being the other way.
Where you wait, you take your free cash down to 0 and then you wait for your certified number to come back, and that's what you use to
In June.
operate for the remainder of the year for the overages.
No, it was more of like we would have all of our capital at the annual town meeting of June. And just, whatever free cash got certified, it would just fold over. There wouldn't be too many articles in the special. All the special?
So yeah, no, but you didn't have but you didn't have a special either, like you did everything at one annual, like including operational.
Oh, that's right. We would run the special in the summer.
So and then capital, like, I think that's part of have really the best of both worlds, we like to. Some capital funded at annual, but then we've also had a capital process at this cycle as well. Once we have the certification.
Historically, we try to do capital at annual,
Okay.
but we used to have the finance committee's recommendations, selectmen's recommendation, and the voters would understand something that was deferred to a fall meeting.
Oh,
And then that's where some of the bigger tickets were addressed, but it was usually addressed first at the end. And would be a lot of my stuff would be deferred to the fall meeting.
Yeah, we certainly would want to present as much as we can,
okay.
but I mean. When we start getting into,
How much is in our capital stabilization?
1.4.
Oh, yeah, I think this one's 1.4. I know, I meant to check those numbers before this meeting.
In the other town I worked for, they would use some of that money to fund the current and then replenish it.
Right.
right, and that's what we've done in the past as well, is use some of that, but. Because we're just at 1.4. Given what we have, and I'm just looking at highway department to begin with, right? We could spend all of our capital stabilization right now just on highway. And we could, but we're not, no, we're not. But there's no way we're ever gonna have the ability to fund it back up to that 1.4. So what we've tried to do is at least level fund it. So if we take out 200,000 at annual, we're gonna put 200 back in. This is probably a year that we're not gonna be able to level fund it. We're gonna, if we get anything at all. But I say so, and this is the conversation that we had with the selectmen last year. Which was last year we had the additional E&D.
Yes.
So what we were trying to get them to do was to fund it at a roughly I shouldn't say we, I was trying to get them to fund like 2/3 in capital stabilization and of what was left. Okay, we had some expenditures that we had to incur. We used the excess E&D to pay for those things. We still had a fairly good size amount of money. What we tried to do was, what I tried to do was get them to put 2/3 into capital and just 1/3 into regular stabilization. Instead, it got split to somewhere like 55, 45. It wasn't 2/3, because that's what I was.
Oh, sorry.
It was like something closer to like 55, 45. Okay, so. You know, some of these things. You know, for example, I know. Firearms and everything like that. It said it came through capital outlay. To me, it's a typical operating expense. It just happens every couple of years. Could we fund that through our regular stabilization fund? We don't have the authority to do that other than to make the recommendation. Actually, that's all we typically do is make the recommendation.
So, or. Oh, yeah, like on something like that, at a relatively small dollar, we use our existing excess levy. So to fund those limited issues.
And then we hear about. Our tax rate, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, that's,
I think we all agree that, I mean, if we fund that debt out of free cash, I mean, there's only so much here.
I know, funding the debt,
And I mean, we do, we can't rob Peter to pay Paul anymore.
No. And you know, Brenda, we talked about, you know, the day I brought us, you know, a little bit about bonding, right? You know,
I feel the swallow if you haven't been doing it all along.
Right.
It's nothing.
You're right.
But it's like taking care of your own house. Take out an equity loan to make improvements on your house. You know, you can't keep kicking the can down the road. So many needs because we haven't done anything for years. So.
So doesn't this committee make a recommendation to the finance committee that we consider
Is this.
bonding something? Bonding a certain amount. It does that, it does our recommendation include bonding an amount that takes care of part of the school assessments. I don't know, can we do that?
Oh,
Okay, then.
But yeah, but that's, I mean, you're just putting that off.
yeah,
Right?
yes,
If you're paying interest on BP, you're paying interest on.
On your own debt.
bond too.
yeah.
So that doesn't really make a ton of sense, but.
and in order to bond internally, we need to have the levy capacity to do so.
Oh, yeah, we don't. It's the way to go. That's what we think it's going to do.
As that went down, right, so.
Yeah, that's not used to it.
Just because all these things are in cars there, doesn't mean it's happening.
Oh, no, it doesn't. No,
His committee's not done their work by the annual meeting. This committee's alive year round, right?
But how many things have already carried over from one year?
yeah.
It just keeps snowballing.
Right.
We get more and more requests.
I was either here and now, but I need assistance on creating any type of warrants by Wednesday.
Yeah.
And what is it gonna be?
Right.
For Main Street.
Well, whatever you guys
We
decide.
have to think about that in the future.
Yes.
It's something big enough to bond you. Good people.
I mean,
You can't live like this.
Right.
We have all this stuff to get done.
It's costing more every time you kick it down the road.
okay. Now, so I guess we, you know, if we circle back to the highway department and the Main Street drainage upgrades. what are we, if we just consider this as level or equal funding for the remaining 2 fiscal years. We're looking at funding $720,000 a year. Is what that amount comes to. Now. And that's after applying $200K of chapter 90 money. So I think that's the number that this group has to work with in terms of what needs to be funded for. Anybody disagree? Is that?
I just don't know how you got up to like the 700.
Because I haven't included the 140. And I don't think that 140 is a. Even at 140, now you're still looking at 650. I mean, it's 720 without considering free cash from this year to augment it.
Okay, I get it.
That leaves the even management alive doing something. The road's going backwards.
The 100,000 or the
Anything.
yeah.
So the grand total, you're saying the grand total is 2.175?
So no, I worked off of Mike's number here, the 2.1, I used 2.11 instead of 108. So 2.11. Less the drainage, which we're gonna use from ARPA. Okay. Less the 400 for each of the 2 fiscal years coming from chapter 90. Leaves us with an amount to fund of 1.46.
And Tom, that leaves you a 2.5-year balance of chapter 90 at about 340.
Yeah.
346.
Right.
These are other projects. Well,
You set it fund, not each year. Collectively.
No, collectively,
yeah.
Right.
still 140 from this year,
Plus 100.
plus 100 and
That's a
100.
big deal.
Yeah,
Just doing preservative treatments and stuff. That's a big deal, like those father.
right. So then the question becomes, given you have 140 this year. Are there some of these smaller projects from here, from this list, that you can pull forward?
Yes.
And under the purview of using chapter 90 money, and therefore not needing. A special town meeting to approve the funding of those projects. You can just push forward.
They check a lot of boxes at once.
Okay, so that's.
All in the line?
Yeah, all of these are here to pull stormwater out of here. Only one of them wasn't here before, and that was stormwater. So,
That's kind of nice.
I know, but it's not under this ask, and oh, by the way, when we get to that to score it, it's a compliance issue, so that's gonna be a mandatory, it's gonna be. So. And these are FY25 and beyond too. So it's just these 2 rows, so we have 2 right? So
It's small
Yeah, those 2 roads close to us, they took away.
right,
They're around the head right now.
right, so what we're saying is if you pulled William Street and started working on that this year, that's your set number 2. Your number 3 was the alternative analysis for Briggs at 0.75. The mower is probably too much. Well, no, how much was your mower?
I don't have this up.
But you can't use chapter 90 money for equipment, sorry, right? So then,
Oh, yes, you can.
You can?
If it's the road, that's
The plows.
no, you can't have the plow. Equipment you can, but I have to word it, so it's not just for landfill, that was for landfill.
okay. And then you have Maple Swamp Road guardrail. So you got 50, we said the alternative analysis was. Could go up to 30, and so that's 80, and then another 11 and change. For William Street to put you at 91, that leaves you with 48,000 left in chapter 90 money. the remaining 3 years to do road treatments.
Remaining 3 years?
3 months, sorry, 3 months.
Yes.
I mean, does that sound viable for you? Okay, so now, we just pulled these 3 out then. Tom's gonna start working on these now.
I'm sorry, so we have Williams.
William Street
11
drainage upgrade, the alternative analysis for Brick Street.
For 27.5.
Yeah, Tom and I talked about it. And
Okay,
that was a quote that was given a couple months back, and so we figured for next year that we realized it's probably be closer to 30.
okay,
But so I just use the number of 30 right now. And I'm more of those under overestimate. So that if I'd rather have leftover money than go ask for more.
yeah, definitely.
And then the guardrail at 50K.
Got
Yeah, that was from last year, so that's
it.
why.
Okay, that's why I'm confused.
That's why that was last year's request. That was gonna go. And again, that's one of those that needs to be considered as.
We switched that last year for the vehicle that's still in order.
Right now,
Yes.
but at least it's ordered.
So
So
is
to pull that
that
out,
50 on the list?
Is what 50?
The one from last year, then?
yeah, it should be.
Oh, look at you guys.
Right there, 46.
Okay, 46.
I probably did some rounding because that was last year's number.
And I know, River Street and then. What's that, we're just gonna push down.
Well, so, yeah, we haven't talked about those collective plans. So,
Just a procedural question, even the projects that we're gonna rank. You know, like, I'm sorry, fund through chapter 90, because chapter 90 has been determined to be that funding source, do we still rank them? So we have the collective prioritization for. So like a whole ranking system, or is that?
so the way that in. I think I've been doing this for about 10+ years now, is this track. On the finance committee part of it, and capital outlay has only been back. In this form is only back, this is only our 2nd year. Well, prior to that, it was 2 or 3 years. Where it was a committee, but I was just meeting with department heads and trying to. Get a grasp on what their asks were gonna be just for the upcoming year, not anywhere in terms of the 5-year plan that we're doing now. And in my time, it's always been that the chapter 90 money has been discretionary at the highway department superintendent. I don't even know if Tom's official. Tom's discretion, how's that? That's the official title, Tom's discretion. In any aspect of the capital that was outside of chapter 90 was submitted as a warrant article. And obviously, his projects could not all be covered by chapter 90 money. Nor was I don't think Tom ever put the town in a position of, all of our chapter 90 money is going to this one project and therefore we got to fund everything else. What he did was he tried to say, take a percentage of his budget from chapter 90 to apply to different projects, so that there was some equitable distribution of the chapter 90 monies to various projects. So that's the way it's worked. And again, just like I would come in here and tell you might have to do your job, or Serena have to do hers, or Paul have to do his. That's kind of been my approach with Tom. This was his budget. Just like the payment management plan, right? It's gonna be discretionary at this point and he's working off of all the facts that he has. And so to that end, I mean, us tagging 200K for Main Street out of this chapter 90 money right here kind of goes against what we've practiced in the past. And Tom and I talked about it and it's. I'm not super comfortable with it, but again, because we're not tagging all of it.
Hmm.
Tom's been
So I think-
amenable to this plan.
Yeah. And you kind of asked a procedural question.
But yeah, like we have, so yeah, so
But just to interject here though, real quick, but to give you something that's kind of equal.
Yeah.
We don't do it for the school department. In their chapter 7, right? We don't tell them how to spend their money. Whatever we tell Tom how to spend his chapter 9.
So, yeah.
No, it's different because it's a joint school district,
Yeah,
but.
yeah, but it's like a whole. So it's a whole other process, so like we have asked all of our town departments, to be able to come forward to us with any capital. So the item or project, like over like $5,000, like so we could be leveraging all of our available funding sources
Right.
together. Yeah, and even if we have a dedicated funding source for them. Like i.e. in terms of chapter 90. So it is like still a capital request that came forward. So when the only difference is, it has a dedicated funding source. So yes, so we actually have our backup to be able to reconcile that with our chapter 90 funding. So hypothetically, 100,000 of it went to capital priorities. So then especially when we get, having to advocate for additional chapter 90, like in this instance, and what it does, and really the limited amount of impact of $303,000 a year. So has on the town and then we're able to quantify. So exactly how much of our capital budget. How much of our capital budget for highway, investments, chapter 90 has been able to do, and that's. So I mean, like if we had a capital plan, that we took out anything we spent for chapter 90, like from highway, and then the cable fund, that's a dedicated funding source as well. So, but we would take that, $45,000 out. So I mean, just like the question, what at the end of the day is the point of having a plan that shows how we're basically applying all the funding sources that we have.
Regardless of what that chapter 90 can do.
Yes, exactly.
Even if it's operational.
Yes.
Like maintenance.
Like if it's funded, if it's funded by chapter 90, that's all well and good. That's how we're leveraging our available funding, but we're still ranking and supporting them as, so we're able to legitimize. So exactly how we're using our available funding sources.
That sounds a lot more transparent.
yeah, that's the word that comes to it.
By the same token, I mean. We could just recommend that all chapter 90 fund goes to the pavement management plan. And everything comes through as a capital project. And then now your pavement management plan is funded. It's in its entirety, right? We're to estimate for about roughly 350,000 for pavement
Yeah,
management.
we were asking the town for additional 250 more, so it'd be funded properly. That's a payment.
Yeah, that's not it. So that's operational. Management plan, very good, it's operational. Where we should take that, let's see.
I would think, yeah, so this committee would have to get more active than just budget time. It would have to be a little more active throughout the calendar year.
Well, that and at what point do you need to get the town's approval for these projects, right?
It's $5,000. Which right now.
Well, no, it's not $5,000. That's just the bylaw for it to be reviewed by this committee.
Right.
There's nothing that says you have to put it on the warrant if it's $5,000.
No, but the grading like we're saying, the procedural part.
So. We will be telling him for our priorities, and that not be your priorities.
In order, but no, like I was saying, in order to apply. Oh, yeah, you chapter 90, like against the project, that doesn't come into play unless, so like actually Tom. Is actually advocating for it, like it. Unless and until then, we don't utilize chapter 90 as a funding source. So yeah, like unless and until Tom is actually advocating for chapter 90 funding a project like that.
So we're pretty comfortable. We're gonna put placeholder for the 250, the drainage, Main Street. They already have a sweeper and a prior bill. Everything else was holding off to be determined. for This community. So I just got that drainage.
Yeah, yeah, do we want to Main Street?
And you'll come June, we'll know whether we table it. That's the plan.
Yeah, like either tabling it or like reducing it even to, even to like even to 140 or 150, so we don't have as big of a climb in the following 2 years as well.
But the 140 you're saying is coming from FY23's chapter 90. So we still have to, I mean, that's.
So no, 140 was an idea, but I thought we took the 140 off the table, so Tom was able to do Maple Swamp Road, Wayne Street and Big Street. So when we take that 140 out of the available revenues, we would still have to make that up somehow. And because we know we have the available free cash now. Oh, yeah.
So you're saying this 730, you want to fund as 140 from free cash and the rest from. For this, for FY24. You want to use 140
I
from.
know, but FY23, like, so like I don't approach, so in terms of this matrix. Oh, yeah, so yeah, the annual, so like at the annual town meeting, we would be able to commit funds in FY23. And so what that means when we get to FY24, we have June. So I'm sorry, so anything we would commit, so over and above that. That would take place between June 1, 2023 and June 30th, 2024 would be committed in FY24. So yeah, like it could go either way there, but like just for trying to organize the sequencing, that's just how but it could go either way. I mean, it's also semantics.
You need a special town meeting. At the end of it.
Where we're just applying it from available funding because the free cash is available right now, Brenda.
So you can do that.
I need to do that as special.
You could run the special and the annual at the same time.
That's what I mean.
No,
But they have separate meetings.
Yeah.
And
So
They
this
are, they are. The moderator opens one, closes it, and
I
then
didn't
opens
see
the
that
next one. and
anywhere
closes.
in like the bylaws that it had to be separate, because I had that question too.
We have always said it that way.
Actually, we do.
I was just gonna say, I
Yeah,
so 1 year.
Yeah, fiscal year special. And
You just run it two
Annual,
separate
which
meetings.
So I'm used to that being written out in the charter that it had to, but I just haven't found that documented in this town anywhere, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a conversation. I mean, if you can't find it and it's not there, and we can do it as one meeting, then by all means, I think. I think we have a moderator too as well, and we have a brand new moderator. I don't know what his knowledge is of. What you can and cannot do, or we may have to engage town council as well.
Yeah, we reached out to DOR, like in the payment of an unpaid bill, last year, we didn't want to have a special just for an unpaid bill. So even though we were paying an unpaid bill. From available funds in the then current fiscal year. We were able to do it in the annual town meeting and just specify that the funding coming from available funds. In the current fiscal year.
Yeah, so I'd prefer to have the articles for special for 23 be like the first set of articles. And then, all the 24, it's not gonna like be mixed. We'll have all of that.
Like we finish one thing and then get into another.
Okay, so then what we're looking at funding here is. For FY 24 is $590,000. Still leaving $730,000 for the next fiscal year.
And
That's all highway.
that's on Main Street.
That's Main Street. So we're gonna fund $730,000. Of which 140 is gonna come from FY 23 free cash and the 590. We gotta figure out where it's coming from.
140, chapter 90.
No, from free cash. Your 140 for FY 23 is yours to take care of those efforts that we talked about. William Street, alternative analysis for bridges. In the guardrail, Maple Swamp. Plus, we go with Mike's recommendation that we should be approving these projects.
Yes.
If you're using my chapter 90 money from this year, there's no sense in writing them, right?
Just backing up before going to article. We're talking. For the June annual town meeting. We're talking about the two of. So the 250 is, so like if we don't get the offer, we can go either way, just as a fail safe.
Mhm.
And then are we doing? Like 140 on the top of that? Or we drop that down to an additional 140. In addition to the 250 we're gonna get from ARPA. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I follow. The 250 is designated for drainage.
Yes.
Okay, if it doesn't get approved by ARPA. Then we would have, so I think there's two articles, right? There's the Main Street drainage upgrades.
Yep.
For 200.
Okay, got it.
And then there is. The remainder of the Main Street, which is, so Main Street sidewalks and paving. Is the remainder.
And how much of the June annual town meeting would we ask for that second article then?
Are we gonna combine sidewalks and paving? Or have 3 separate articles?
I think you want to combine them because then it allows Mr. Barry to take that sum of money and just do the work. And so if they do 100 feet of sidewalks. Then when they do the next 100 feet of sidewalks, they'd be doing paving at the same time of the first 100 feet. And so on, because right, Tom said you want to do sidewalk first and then pave.
Right.
Yeah, and so it doesn't make sense to do all the sidewalks and then do all the paving after. If we can do them consecutively, jointly.
Possible though, would we go outside first and then?
Do drainage first, which I would.
Drainage gets done first.
This is so I understand.
And then-
It goes under the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Drainage has to be first. Sidewalks needs to be done after Mike's done taking land.
Okay.
He's shaking his head now. Police is not running for it.
Yeah, keep going.
Then we can pay. Yes,
Maybe after the sidewalks are done.
yes, it can be done the same year, not the same week.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we're getting at.
Yeah. So then he's
So we'll
free to
combine
do the
that.
spend. So then that ask is, the total ask is 730K.
Just for paving.
Pardon me? Well, no, so this is,
Oh, you're saying the net?
what I did was I took the remaining, the 1158 number there and the 700,000. To get to 1.86, subtracted out the $400 from chapter 90 total. To get 1.46 million. And split that in half to get to 730. Now, for FY 24. What is being proposed is that we use 140K. Of FY 23 free cash. Leaving us with an ask of 590K for fiscal year 24. Don't know where we're gonna get it from right now, not gonna worry about it right now. But, and then that leaves then your Main Street sidewalks and paving for FY 25. At still 730. Is a grand total number, which is.
So if we're gonna do it that way, you just call it Main Street reconstruction.
I like sidewalks and paving.
First seven, well, we get drainage 250, that's possible opera, but that's a placeholder.
Yeah,
730 is FY 23. That's a special meeting, the same.
no, we're not gonna, we don't have to do stuff, it's just the way we word the article. That's gonna say, it'll say to be funded,
Funding source, yes.
yeah, to be funded, from FY 23 free cash in the amount of 140,000 and 590,000 to be funded from TBD, right?
So. And just with the remaining. 500,000, because we know we don't have that allotment in existing free cash. And we know. That would also be viewed as a pretty steep request on the capital stabilization. Would the $500,000 ask be better introduced at a special town meeting rather than the annual town meeting where we really. But no, we don't have an idea funding source at this point. I mean,
Well, I think you're gonna have to. Because you're asking for 140K.
Yes.
Free cash.
Okay, no,
I've got to give them the picture, the entire picture. And even if we make two motions, one to fund the free cash portion of it, one to fund the next portion of it, and let's say the free cash gets approved, but the other one doesn't get approved. We can always add another warrant article to the special in the fall. To maybe come up with, depending upon what our certified free cash is. On the small portion through that, and then the rest of the capital stabilization, I don't know.
This would be. I don't normally say much, try not to, I probably would report before the meeting. And explain.
Yeah,
Gonna be entertaining, because they either want to explain it for each article, they should have a bird's eye view before we get there.
Yeah, but I guess I'm just wondering, like, if we. like if we put a whole article up there, which. All we really have guaranteed as a funding source is 140. We know we don't have a tried and true funding source for yeah, the remaining of the FY24 allotment. Then what I can see potentially happening is one potential capital project being pitted against the other.
Oh, that's always gonna happen. That's always gonna happen. The operating budget is the operating budget is the operating budget. So everything else that's on there that is a monetary ask is competing against each other. It's quite honestly. The biggest factor in all of this is how the warrant articles are. In what order the warrant articles are represented, because the townspeople, in my opinion, there is no big picture that says, if you approve all of today's articles, like prior to the meeting, like, if you approve all of today's articles, this is what the cost is gonna be, and this is, this is where the funding is coming from. There is nobody ever presents that big picture. So we get in there and we start, the finance committee has been true to presenting everything that can be funded. And therefore, we've never gotten ourselves in trouble with this. We don't, quite simply, we collect all these things at the bottom of the list and we say, we're holding these until the fall, if we can, and then we'll revisit at the fall. But this is what we can afford right now. That's it. So it's really on the finance committee, the board of selectmen and us to put together what we feel is the right recommendations to them. Now we go through, we're the only group that I know of that goes through and like scores things and start to then put them in some semblance of, from a town perspective, this is the number one highest priority thing for us to do.
And sort of what you're saying, and also Mike indirectly, these 4 articles there right now on Main Street, they all have to pass. But they're not all getting voted on this year, right? The FY23 and FY24 TBD will be determined this annual, right?
So I'm only seeing 3 things: the drainage, and the drainage is only going to be that let's understand this. The drainage article is only going to be made a motion if we don't have ARPA funding in place by the time of annual.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so that may be a moot point. Okay, on
Still a point though.
yes. So that will be on the article. Okay.
Yep.
I would say that for the sidewalks and paving article. I mean, first off, I would word both of all of these warrant articles as a part of the Main Street reconstruction project. A drainage, budget to cover drainage of 250K, whatever, however the warrant is typically written. And then as a part of the Main Street reconstruction project, an amount of, actually it's $930,000, right? You want to be totally transparent. You'd say $930,000, of which $200,000 is coming from Chapter 90 money, $140,000 from FY23 free cash, and $590,000 from whatever source we determine. And that's how. And what I would actually say is drainage 200, as a part of the $2.11 million Main Street reconstruction project. Drainage is $250,000. Of the $2.11 million, $930,000 is the FY24 portion of sidewalks and paving. And then when people say, well, where's the rest of the 2.11 million? It's gonna come in FY25. We'll be able to answer that right off the bat. And then if that one will be
Most of that's the final payment.
yes,
It's looking to be, close to 800,000,
the paving.
final payment, yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah, but
were-
remember, we're just splitting these equally from year to year.
But the way you word it, a balance from the sidewalk paving can be used for paving. If there's a balance from sidewalk paving,
Well, that's why we're putting it in one
No,
article.
that's what we're just putting in, what we're not gonna say. I'm not following it, so.
It's not gonna be that specific.
okay,
Like, we're not gonna say, 1.1 for sidewalks or 700 for paving in the article. We're gonna leave it more general.
Yeah,
So you can,
sidewalk paving.
yeah,
sidewalks and paving, 930,000
right.
funded by chapter 90, 200K, FY23 free cash 140K, 590,000. TBD, right?
That's small.
But that's the only way we can really,
But you didn't change the numbers. So I'm writing an article for the drainage, one more time, please. Sidewalk and paving, 730 for FY23. Where's that coming from?
well, so if you really want to be truly transparent, call it 930, 200K from chapter 90, FY24 chapter 90. Money. 140K from FY23 free cash. And 590,000 from TBD.
Yeah, FY24. So FY24, chapter 90. It's
203.
2020, Spike's number. Okay, me, Michael's.
Yeah, we just use 200. We give Tom back 3,000.
So FY25, not mentioned this year.
Yeah, we'll get the question, right? We'll get the question.
And we'll have, because it's so far away, numbers, the market's so fluid right now, we'll have a real number for that.
Yeah.
It could be up, could be down.
All right. So we should probably start scoring these things. So. We have Main Street. Drainage, which don't have a separate.
We.
I have some. things to them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's at 140. No.
Oh, yeah, the request, the original request came in at 145.
What originally?
The original highway drainage came in at 145. And but then that prompted us to have a look at the whole full picture that we're dealing with.
Oh, that's the.
Of the 90, so basically that's. Well, really the whole number anyways. Everything.
You just put it in there, or wasn't it?
No, that was already in there. What do you got?
So, Mike, have you given any thought on how to, for example, get rid of things that were
Oh, we can sort them out, so.
Well, things that like were approved. At the town meeting or special town meeting and have already been funded and therefore we don't need to factor in kind of thing.
Yes, we can do that. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, though. And
And then, alright. So. See that you did include stormwater here though on the highway budget.
I did. Like in some moments, saying.
Okay. So let's go, Main Street drainage, which is gonna be 250K. Priority classification, mandatory maintenance, improve efficiency or use service. Maintenance. Inventory.
I can turn the stormwater. Is the drainage. From Main Street, if we don't do anything with drainage, is it doesn't impact our MS4 compliance?
It does. But the road is behind maintenance schedules put up because we, the water may be put up. It took about 11 years for the water to just be fine.
Okay, so maintenance.
Pulling up the whole schedule.
Maintenance.
Now, we're holding it up. They were quick once we get going.
I think you go either way, but what's for maintenance?
The asphalt on Main Street right now is a little over 40 years old.
Priority ranking,
That's a very high.
right? Expected useful life,
80 years, baby.
more than 20?
75.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a guess. Good guess.
Plastics is 75 to 100, but some of the structure is concrete at 75.
Okay, effect on operating and maintenance costs. Reduce costs, costs unchanged, increase costs. Costs unchanged, right? You're still gonna have to put maintenance plan in process there. It won't cost us as much at the beginning, especially based on what we paid in the past few years,
But
but
they're doing it in-house.
so.
Custom change.
Yeah, I think it's custom changed.
Use words I haven't.
And the effect on the town's revenues. Unchanged, right?
Some like 30 words.
Okay, availability. Additional funding, yes, this is what planning, I need to be part of. For this. And would address significant public safety concern. Significant, you think it's
Drainage?
Installing the curb for the sidewalk, the water has no way to go now. Without the drainage.
Give him a hand, yes, okay.
8 inches of water on the side.
I'm not sold on that, but.
We're gonna think about that.
So again, this goes back to our last meeting where we said we
Yeah.
give first have high, medium, low on this, so
Yeah.
we'll be modifying our process for this. Okay,
The current drainage is country drainage, for the most part. You have it for the water will have nowhere to go. Why you have.
okay. I have no doubt that it's required. Says for the runoff, however, it being a public safety concern. If it causes flooding, then yes.
I was looking at it. Do we think it's a priority and concern? I would think we want to say yes.
Okay. Then we have the Main Street sidewalk and asphalt. Paving, sidewalk and paving. We're looking at a total cost of $930. Maintenance,
Again, so subjective.
ranking. Doesn't make sense to do one without the other. Life expectancy.
20 years.
Easily. So. And. That they're operating and maintenance costs.
I think they're actually like reduced.
Yeah, paving out there, well, I mean, I don't even know.
The hot hats and stuff like that.
To reduce.
I think,
And the effect on town's revenue unchanged.
the police tickets are gonna go.
Oh. Racetrack.
Yeah, racetrack. Speeding tickets.
All right, so funding sources, what we're saying is to pay the chapter 90,
I think that's a no.
140K from free cash. FY23 free cash. And then the remaining 590 is PPP. You okay, Brenda?
It's in the calendar. It's a bad. It could have been borrowing.
Yep. All right. Next would be the Pleasant Street bridge replacement.
Yeah.
So. So yeah, I'm gonna have a question for Mike on this one, of course, so let's hold on, I'm questioning the amount on that. The new is also, was Old Somerset, that's new, right?
That's new, you guys, that could be. Sorry.
Yeah, so we've already, Tom's already given the go ahead that that's a weight potential,
The old Somerset
yeah.
for 12.
Of course, you could be finished it in June with these other three efforts and have 12 grand to do that. Sorry, get out there.
Out of the chunk.
No, I actually had other plans for that 140, but we gotta address these things.
What do you have planned for it?
I was gonna do a preservative seal on Center. Some other streets, but that got put on hold in this process. So, these guys are closest to me, we'll look at that, with the chapter 90.
And then whatever's left.
Well, yeah, this will leave you with roughly 40 grand in chapter 90 money. Will that give you the ability to do some of that seeding
I
work?
still have to go back there because they're gonna get paid. That's another thing that didn't happen.
They didn't get rated.
It's this committee.
This committee has to read it.
Rate what? The ceiling?
Yes, the treatment,
To use chapter 90?
yes. And it's only $5.
No, we're not doing that for everything.
Yeah,
Like
that's
those,
maintenance. That's maintenance.
yeah, like those small 3 cards, we're not gonna rate those 3.
Yeah, we got it.
You probably have not heard me.
Yeah. So
They always think it's young.
So what are we on now?
we're back to discussion on chapter 90 money and whether or not we should be, whether it should be discretionary for Tom or. Well, in Tom and I actually floated the idea the other day when we were talking about. Basically doing what we're doing here with the 200K being allocated to Main Street for FY 24 is basically saying 2/3 of it will be for funding projects of this nature and be decided upon by this group, in 100,000 and change, whatever that change is, will be discretionary for Tom.
Correct,
That's essentially what Tom and I have talked about, is establishing
right,
that is kind of a policy, if you will, that whatever chapter 90 money is, so next year, let's say it's 290, the year after it's 360, whatever, that it's 2/3 for capital projects, 1/3 for discretionary. And that gives them some
Mhm.
ability.
That makes sense.
Beyond the Main Street project? Or,
Main Street is the start of it, and it's like, so we said, this is basically Main Street, the way Mike put together
Yeah.
this budget. Mike's basically pulled 200K out of
Yeah,
your
2/3.
chapter 90, 2/3 of your money.
Yeah.
So if we use that as a policy.
Like, that's what I'm saying,
In the
going
future,
forward.
yeah, going forward, is that sufficient?
Oh.
And Tom was okay with it, I mean, I don't wanna be telling him how to do it, but.
The payment management plan identified the 250 on top of the chapter 90 allocation.
Yeah, what was it in the chapter 90 allocation was all of it, right?
all of chapter
Yeah,
9.
every year to spend all of it.
All of
Yeah,
it.
Another 250 on top of
Yeah.
that, yes. But that has to be looked at differently, trying to get Main Street behind us.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole thing, the payment management plan though should be bonded. It's,
So what kind of room left off Pleasant Street Bridge?
yeah, I have a question on that,
Yeah, me too.
because the amount that you have there for funding
Yeah,
was 500K.
yes.
And I had, based on the notes, it said 25% of the 2.75 million, right?
No. The, so yeah, so just backing up one sec, I still. Yeah, like I think, and this is why we need financial policies as well, we need. Like I think as a town to have a uniform, well-understood way of how. Of how a town, and I think in departments will consider. Oh, really dedicated revenue sources like chapter. So we have, so yes, even though the dedicated. Yeah, you're a dedicated revenue specific to. Oh, different sources or areas. Having a general sense to make sure that as those revenues or as that funding is made available. That all of us are going in the same direction with that like funding, because we don't. So we don't become we do anything else. So I think in terms of financial policies, we need to have a financial policy that do identify and address those areas. But anyways, moving on to Pleasant Street. The Pleasant Street, the grant that we got is for $2.75 million. The please note the construction cost. You'll see the 25% cost to construct before adding a contingency is 3.07 million. So all told, the all-in number here that we got from Beta is 3.35 million. So we already have, as of right now, we have $2.75 million of that. And so to fund the project all in, we need another $500,000.
Okay, and that does not include,
I think Wayne's a good question.
When?
Yes.
Alright, so things are quickly evolving on this budget as well.
It's funded up, well, pending the state.
Yep.
It should be ready for advertisement next month.
Yep,
So you wouldn't need it that way 24, right?
yeah, yeah, being advertised next March, that means we'd have to award by the end of 24. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the federal funds to use first, right?
I don't think we can award I don't think we'd ever be able to award a federal procurement. So any type of procurement without all the funds in hand.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
And that's the question that we're dealing with. We might not be able to award it anyways.
yes, so over the last week, this project is now very much in flux. It's very much active, but very much in flux. It is that Mass DOT doesn't allow federally earmarked transportation funding to go directly to Massachusetts citizen towns. The funding will according to Mass DOT need to come through Mass DOT first. If it comes through Mass DOT first, so there's a question that we need to have answered is whether Mass DOT is going to take over the project. It can actually be a good thing if they take over the project because so then they manage can administer everything to do with the project. And there could also be reasonable logic that they have the elements of funding the additional $500,000 or any other contingencies needed to do the whole thing as well. So that is appealing. But this is very much evolving almost on a daily basis right now. So I need to reach out to Pam House now. So
Here now, we need a warrant for me for that.
and no, I don't. Oh yeah, again, I mean, I go back and look. I mean, I think if we were to put a warrant article out the annual town meeting on this also without a dedicated funding source, we're just gonna scare the heck out of people. I mean, honestly.
I mean, I think to me, this is one that we would hold till special anyway, so give this a little bit more time to evolve.
Yeah.
My question though has to do with the fact that there's a $270K that we approved at the last town meeting.
Yes.
For design and permitting, is that included in this $3 million total?
No.
I thought it would be because it's in kind of.
And yeah, but the project doesn't have like a match specifically, we have like a gap amount that we need to fund to get to the total dollar amount. However, without the upfront investment of the 267 plus the 150 that came before the 267, we probably likely would have never had a chance at the federal funding to do this.
Engineering and so forth.
Yeah, like that
To a position where we were.
able to sell the project as a fence. And we had a really tight we had a really well proposal to the fence.
Really, the right thing to do is to do the article and table it, but I agree, you don't want to scare people.
No.
But everyone that's key to make this happen needs to be on board with it, needs to be aware of it. You know, finance committee.
Yeah, no, and I think, honestly, like, I think we can rate the project as a project. And, but at this point, based on the unknown, we can include this project in a report on a presentation, but we don't have to have it as a.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, let's go ahead and rate the priority classification.
That's it, yeah, Joy. I mean, it's a posted bridge, right? No, it has a posted weight limit on it. That's my thought, I'm sorry, I'll be quiet, but.
No, we need that kind of information, right? So. Yeah, I mean, I give them that. Mandatory. Priority ranking,
Very nice.
expected useful life.
5 to 9.
It better not be.
Yeah, that's good.
75. I believe it's, you already get that, I think so.
Effect on operating and maintenance costs. You guys doing any maintenance at all on that bridge?
It's being inspected more frequently because of the rating.
By you guys or by?
State, well, we're the stewards, the state does it, because they qualify. They report to us. It's on their dime at this point.
Okay, so it's on their dime, then it's unchanged, then, right?
Right.
So we own.
All right, availability of funds, done.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that, over here is we got, $2.75 million.
Yes, so I'm just gonna put, 2 point. Subsidized by $2.75 million grant. Federal grant. And then would address significant public safety concern. Yes. Yeah. All right. One good new stuff, the Old Somerset Avenue drainage upgrades, Tom's already said that's a weight potential. The same with the Wheeler Street drainage upgrade. So, do we want to rank those?
So you say wait, are you saying wait until 25?
Well, no, it's to be determined. Is some of the things that you have think behind the scenes first. Hold up on.
Okay. Well, then I wouldn't rate them. So
Okay,
that's the MS4 information.
Yeah.
well then we should rate the stormwater. MS4 plan, right? So,
And that's gonna be an article.
No, that would be after as well. That's a mandatory program, right?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Should be part of the treasurer's office.
Mhm.
I would love it.
He wouldn't.
I would want more. Then we have priority ranking. And expected useful life.
I do. I think 5 to 9 years is maybe too short, I think.
It gets reviewed, I believe it's every 6, you hit the nail on the head.
Well, 5
So
to 9.
you could have it in compliance at that point. You could, yeah, you can say for 10 years.
Ooh, effective operating maintenance dollar cost, because we have a plan, it's actually gonna cost us more money because we're gonna identify what we're actually not doing now.
All right. So increased costs.
That's like an inverse,
Yeah.
kind of an inverse type of thing.
Could say you're doing too much and knock it off.
That's Tails revenue
Unchanged.
unchanged. I'm thinking about using ARPA for that
Mhm.
and public safety concern, no. Okay. So. If you look then at the board. There are a bunch of requests also from the highway department from last year that we put off. They lay around equipment that is critical to get to be reviewed. So there, can't see if there's a mower on there.
I see 1-ton dump truck.
And that's not a piece of, I see at this point on the screen.
Yeah, 1 ton was treated.
Yeah, that's all I see.
And then the feasibility study,
Yeah. That's, and that's, there's still a need for that, but, so. It's over 25 years old. Yeah. Aren't going anymore, right, Tom?
The tractor. Tractor back was passing up for. Mower, we did go several times. That's the one we do the light area going to.
We didn't put a cost to it.
But then you will get a price before today. Maybe the other week or something.
What, didn't we replace a mower not too long, not too many years ago?
That's a different type.
Is it?
Yeah, it wouldn't be that much.
Well, and that's what I want to know is what do we, do you remember, recall what we spent then?
boom mower,
That
right?
home mower was over $60,000.
Yeah.
So
So
this thing should be like 29, 25.
So,
This is just a regular, go behind 10-foot mower.
I was gonna say 25,000.
yeah, 20 to 25,000.
What type of mower did you say, Tom?
Go behind 10-foot. Sometimes with the bat wings, others with the spray.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the bat wings kind of.
Right, yeah, okay.
And then we also have a 1995 backhoe, which new is probably gonna be somewhere around 300K. We could pursue getting used, something used.
So how many years of life does the backhoe have left, do we know?
That one there, you can't buy passport. The 95. What, look, you ask for this, looks like it's listed.
Okay.
And then the tractor above it, it's that 92 Ford tractor, you can't touch that.
You're looking at a vehicle list. You're talking about projection, which the other ones on board, right? Not entertained this year.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, yeah, there's probably not, well, I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, we're coming right up against the warrant articles, and it might be best if between now and special, you can start working on some alternatives like leasing, especially like lease to buy, like on the backhoe, where, you know, we've done that with other equipment and made those payments work, right? And then at the end of the lease, we own it outright. Or we pay some nominal fee. Something we need to entertain as a way to kind of circumvent our financial situation today. Also like a landscaping equipment trailer. Now, I think that's something that you might want to consider actually putting together, and I think we might even want to consider scoring it. It's a $20,000 investment in it's essentially all of the landscaping equipment that's in the highway department is outside.
No, it's currently inside,
Currently inside.
but if we kept it in that trailer, we free up that space for getting stuff more inside, because the double break to the facility is gonna be in discussion for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Which means you might wanna take that one and put it in the back of the pocket.
The feasibility study.
Yeah, unless you wanna put it somewhere, everyone.
Well, the trap is on enough. I'm kidding. So you're talking about, you know, trailer, buy them a little bit more space, will improve the take some things that are stored outside, a lot of them inside. And still maintain the longevity of the equipment that's can be stored in the trailer now. And then, or we spent 65,000 on a feasibility study. So spending 20 on a trailer seems kind of like the right thing to be doing here.
That probably won't fit on the chapter 90. So they probably see that as maintenance.
Right. So,
Tobacco, you could, or dump truck, you could, because it goes with what's constructed.
So is that something, do we want to store a trailer here? Equipment trailer, alright, so.
Is that a 20-foot trailer?
That's to be determined to you, 20 or 20. Those trailers, yeah. Enclosed trailers would spell. Could have a portable office.
All right,
What, 20,000?
yeah, that's what we would budget for it. Is it maintenance or improving efficiencies? Alright.
I'm fine with 7.
Okay. Priority ranking, very high or high. Probably high, right? Expected useful life of that trailer. 15 years minimum, right?
Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah.
Are we going
21.
20.
Yeah. Effect on operating and maintenance costs. Hopefully reduce costs, right? The effect on operating and maintenance costs.
It's almost zero, it's probably tires, drag rack, maybe.
No, it's the effect on your operating and maintenance costs. So anything that you, anything you currently store outside that you're now able to bring inside will reduce our maintenance costs, correct?
Yeah, longevity.
So. And then the effect on the town's revenue, that's unchanged. Alright. And then availability. Say which now it's probably a free cash purchase. And would address significant public safety concern now. Okay.
Articles. Those. Pieces of equipment, we have article at this point. We just get it waiting.
Correct.
Yeah, we're great. Michael write the articles for you.
So, but we're waiting for special town meeting, that's not gonna be a priority for the annual town meeting though.
Get anything left.
Okay.
The Ford, the trash, the utility trash, Ford back or even real. You just go out of price on the actually on
Which one?
the backhoe and then utility tractor.
Yeah, so I didn't even talk about the utility tractor. The 92. 1992, so you're talking about something that's 30+ years old now already. I mean, this is, you know. This is the bad that goes with the good, right? We have had and continue to have wonderful highway department workers who are actually able to maintain the vehicles themselves and save us a ton of money and rebuild stuff and are very crafty and creative and over the years have allowed us to buy other things because the equipment has lasted so long. But at the end of the day, there's only so much useful life we can eke out of these things, and things are kind of coming, reaching that tipping point now. So, but these are all things that we're gonna have to figure out.
How much is a new tractor come? Roughly.
One we just bought.
Oh, okay, that tractor, and then we got the blue more, right?
Okay, other one staying on that side is.
So. This committee, we're at 5:20 now, so. How do we want to proceed? Is it, Mike, we get these things entered into the spreadsheet? And then come back together
Yeah, and
and
we.
put together a recommendation.
And the only thing with one article's due on Wednesday. The only other thing that's out there is Cable Day submitted, but they have dedicated funds to be able to upgrade that technology, which I like it with us, all those wires right there, that are just tremendously awful as well. The only other thing, and at this point. I think prepping if the town meeting, we have everything. In terms of one article. That we need.
So what about all the carryover stuff from last year, so some like, for example, Parks and Rec? We know we have police department cruiser, those are all things that we have to discuss, so.
Yep. Yeah. So. Oh, again, like it goes back to the question, like, and this is the question that, so we've been wrestling with since we came together. Is. Do we identify needs in one article, even though we know we don't have the ability to play, or do we? Yeah. Which leads to a real battle on town meeting floor that I don't care about. Any of us won. So like, or do we, well, basically, as projects come forward to us, do we? Weigh in terms of the timing of an article being submitted based on our availability. Our ability to pay.
I don't know the answer for that, I mean, it's. I think we. And it's obviously a bit late for us to be able to do that, this. Round of. Warrant article submissions. But I think we need to. Develop a strategy for our overall financial. Capacity. For lack of a better term. What is our approach going to be? Where we are at the tipping point, so to speak, where we can't afford even 50% of what we need. I mean, if you look at the total of what was outstanding on this, and we'll have everything added in here, and I think that we're going to duplicate it too. We're at $9 million in terms of ask. So. Our capital spend is typically, I believe, between 800 and 1.4, 1.5 million per year.
What happened?
Things get old. Besides us. And they break down and laws change and regulations change, and we have to make accommodations for those things. And inflation happens and we need to recognize the value of our people as well through their compensation and benefits and, you know, the cost of those are getting less expensive but we still manage to bring quality people into this town to help us run it and we need to keep those people. And you know, I don't think this is a message that the townspeople are ready to hear, but it's the reality of the situation. It really is. And we're gonna have to present it to them in a fashion that is, you know, pretty blunt.
Yeah, I think we've, killed it to death, but like already right now, we're absorbing, all told about, just from the Airbnb combined in FY24, we're gonna be absorbing $400,000 in school debt. Plus we've seen solid waste and trash go up significantly.
Retirement assessments up, what, $160,000, $180,000?
So.
And then
Yeah.
Probably not much use.
You know, thankfully, it's me, it's amazing. I really think we've come to a point where we. Oh, you know, honestly, where we look at. Oh, yeah, like getting some operational costs into enterprise or some type of utility. Other than that, it's a debt assess. It's a debt exclusion or the debt that we don't have any control over. Or it's there's another third option that I just started to, but. It's insane what we actually have. Within our levies. It's absolutely insane what we have in our levy. But the third option, honestly, is allowing the debt exclusion for the PET to actually hit. So we have an ability to actually fund like a funding source for dedicated capital. And you know, that's over 300 grand a year. Right now. We're splitting hairs and hairs that are increasingly thin.
But you think about that, you know, 300,000 a year, doesn't put a dent in that thing.
So that's what the police station that we're referring to?
Right.
Yeah. Like D7,
Yeah, rather than pay it out of the.
right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, okay.
And our ability to pay and fund our capital is so outcrowded right now. That's it. It's actually pretty scary.
Because I think that number last year was 5 million. What the overall ask last year? 5 million.
It was just just shy of 5, but I would also say that we've done a better job of doing real priorities.
I think the town's doing a good job. You hear other towns saying it's the tax fees. And I think we got a good, like this committee, the finance committee, the select board, this. And speak when they should be responsible. It doesn't take the needs of, the priorities away, but the approach is real.
All right. So. We can put off, going through the minutes again until the next meeting. And. When do we want to meet again?
Mm,
To. We rob it. I like if. Just an idea, but if the FinCom is coming down to meet on the 22nd. I mean, by the 27th. Do we wanna have our process all wrapped up by then?
I would think so.
yeah,
Yeah. Probably the 25th.
The week is that?
Just for you to say.
Oh, a different meeting.
I mean, it's the second and the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, that's it. How about
so,
Monday the 24th? If you can like at 3:30 again, at that.
99% sure.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, I could do the 24th at this time.
I will have all the data inputted in the spreadsheet. And have the spreadsheet actually emailed out for the weekend this time.
yes,
24th is a Monday, then?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in April.
Yeah, that works.
Yes.
Yeah, I did the first. What is that? Meantime.
Right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So what do we do, Jen?
Second.
Made and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Yes. Motion, meeting adjourned.